You think, well, I'm not trying to be content, Sister Debbie. I want to be married. Contentment is not a place that I like. I remembered as a single woman, I kind of shared this on last week, but maybe I'll start off here. I remember as a single woman, people saying that I just needed to be content, and when I stopped thinking about getting married, then that's when it would happen. And I would look at them and think, you know what, I can't stop thinking about it because I want it so bad. And so I totally appreciate when you say to me, I don't want to be content, I want to be married. But the fact of the matter is, God had to grow me to the point where I could learn to be content in the state I was in as a single woman. Remember, I lived in that state for 24 years, so I had a long time to learn how to be content. And if I'm very honest and transparent with you, I have to say I spent many of those years not in a state of contentment. There were times when I said, well, I'm just content being single. The Lord knows I'm just content. But deep on the inside, inwardly, I was miserable. Inwardly, I was anxious. Inwardly, I was disappointed. Inwardly, I felt like God had let me down. Inwardly, I felt like God had relegated me to a life of misery, and I was just going to have to endure and tolerate it and accept it. But as I grew, I began to understand that God, by asking me to be content in the state of singleness, was not asking me to be just accept misery. God was calling me to a place, and we established this on last week. God was calling me to a place of satisfaction. God wanted me inwardly sufficient. God wanted me to understand that where he had me was the place where he wanted me to be, and he wanted me to find peace and rest, not tolerating and enduring, but peace and rest. He wanted me, as we discovered as we closed out last week's broadcast by looking at John, the 4th chapter and the 34th verse. God wanted to nourish me by aligning me in the center of his will, because he knew that that was the place that he had ordained for me to be satisfied. Let's pick this teaching up again by looking at that verse, and then we'll move on and talk about some ways that you as a single man and a single woman can experience contentment and satisfaction. How can you get at that place? It says, Jesus said to them, my food, my nourishment is to do the will, the pleasure of him who sent me, and to accomplish and finish his work. Jesus was telling us the only way you can be content, the only way you can be satisfied is you got to let me feed you. And the way I feed you is I lead you to the place that I have ordained, called the center of my will for your life. Many of you have decided that right now at this moment that place is marriage. But the fact of the matter is you've not consulted with the architect of the plan of your life. So you don't really know if it's marriage or what. You just know that that's a desire you have, and you have just decided, well, if the only way I'm going to be happy is if I get that. And really what you need to do is you need to take a step back and say, God, I need to know what you want for me for this season of my life. I need to discover that place, because when I find that place, I am going to be nourished just like Jesus was, and I am going to be satisfied. I'm genuinely going to be able to walk in the state of contentment that you have called me to. Let's look at another scripture passage, just one of my favorites. I frequently, if you listen to the program, use it to teach from, but to me it just puts a foundation to the believer's life. To me, this scripture passage just really focuses us on how we should live out and how we should journey through life as a believer. It's the Ephesians, the 2nd chapter and the 10th verse. And if you're going to arrive at a place of genuine contentment and satisfaction, you must understand with revelation